So I would say good morning, good afternoon, and also good evening because we have our speakers and also audience from different parts of the world. So welcome back to the Global Water Exchange Summit. We just finished the keynote section, so welcome you to join, one of the last panelists for the whole summit. So we're honored to have our speakers here. So my name is Anna, and I'm very happy to be the moderator for this panel section. Today, we have an exceptional lineup of experts joining us to explore the topic, technologies for global connections. So we have four panel sections in the panel, presentations in this in our panel then, and they are from diverse backgrounds. So please join me to say our warmest welcome to our speakers. So may I invite our first two speakers, Miss Vanessa Matiola and also Miss Laura Zampieri, so to share their presentation. So thank you both.
Thank you. Let me just share here. And we decided I'll start and then Vanessa will continue. Okay. So I was going to say good morning, but I also have to say good afternoon and good evening because it depends on where you are, right? So let me just put you here so I can see you guys. My name is Laura Braghini Zampieri. I'm from São Paulo State University in Brazil, and I'm a PhD student together with my colleague who is also in the same area, right? We are going to talk to you about digital technologies in virtual exchange. So just to contextualize a little bit, Brazil is a very, very huge country. It's located in South America, and we have more than 250 million people. And our university is located there in the map, as you can see. And it has 24 campuses and thousands of students. And so due to these geographic constraints, technology has played an important role in learning a foreign language and also in internationalization in general. One of the programs that allows us to foster this internationalization at home, have international experience with low cost to our students, and also improve their curriculum is called BRAVE, Brazilian Virtual Exchange Program. And it aims at establishing intercultural contact between students to carry out some collaborative work on content that they are learning in their undergraduate course or graduate course. I'm going to show you an example of one, and then Vanessa is going to continue with another example. So this is a collaboration we have established in 2023, but we also continue throughout this year. So it was a collaboration that involved 37 students from Brazil and 22 students from Mexico. And we developed a project around the sound of English. And we used English as a lingua franca because we had Portuguese speakers and Spanish speakers. So they had to use English as a common language. They met for 6 weeks in online synchronous meetings. But before that, we asked them to interact through Padlets. And this is the tool that I'm going to talk to you about. So they had to post an introductory text about them. And this year, we asked them to post an introductory video about them. And the results were amazing. So I've put a little picture of Padlet. It's it's huge, but I tried to just show you an example of how it looks. We decided to use Padlet because based on Goodwin Jones, before you establish a collaboration, it's very important to get to know each other, especially because you are going to maybe deal with some sensitive and personal topics, right? And there are some studies that also suggest that in order to build a harmonious relationship and lead to successful interactions, this pre-part is very important. Right? So considering this, we decided to use Padlet with this aim, right? So it was a pre-interaction tool. So we figure out that looking at some strangers on the computer screens and having to work with them would be quite frightening. So it might compromise their relationship in a way. So we decided to use this tool, and they could get to know each other before the actual online meeting, right? So we hoped that they would be a little bit more relaxed and a little bit more familiar with their groups before the actual, the actual projects. It turns out that Padlet proved to be a much more effective tool than we anticipated because it made the group members feel more comfortable, and they also felt more confident in their first online meeting. And we have watched the first online meetings, and it feels like they know each other at first. So Padlet was a very nice tool for that. They also were able to create some rapport, and they could find some similarities in their likes, in their dislikes, in their personal lives, in their academic lives. So this created some bond. It also developed some of their autonomy because a few of them knew the platform, so they had to kind of learn by doing and explore the platform as they used. Here, I'm going to show you some evidence that two comments of students saying that they really liked these pre-moments because they felt more relaxed once they met their colleagues face to face, not really face to face, but they felt more relaxed. And here I selected 10 elements that were mentioned by students in this introductory text. And we can see that they were able to share, and they are confident to share some likes, their age, especially some their first name, not their last name, so they felt comfortable doing that. They also, like 52%, shared their contact information, so it showed us that they were engaged, right? And now Miss Vanessa is going to continue, please.
Well, good morning. Another virtual exchange that we have at UNESCO is Teletandem. And the sentence that best summarizes Teletandem is, I help you learn my language and you help me learn yours, because the idea is that we pair students from two different universities. So in our case, UNESCO and then a foreign university, and they will talk for about 1 hour to each other. And during half of the time, they will speak in Portuguese because there are Brazilian students there. And during the other half of the time, they will speak in another language, because the idea is that the student from a foreign university will want to, they want to learn Portuguese, and our Brazilian students want to learn a foreign language. So one will help the other to practice and to learn a foreign language. So the main goal of Teletandem is pairing up proficient speakers of different languages to learn each other's language of proficiency collaboratively. And in Teletandem, we usually ask students to talk about whatever they want. There's not a specific theme, but we also have a case of a thematic Teletandem that we called Literatandem, in which we ask students to talk about literary texts that we select for them to read. So in this thematic Teletandem, there are discussions about literary texts, and the goal of this thematic Teletandem is also speaking in two different languages, doing a tandem, but also sharing different readings of the same text in order to expand the comprehension of this text. So the next slide. We put this thematic Teletandem into practice 4 times. The last time we did it was in 2023. And in 2023, we had we made 6 groups. We had 7 students in Brazil and 6 students in the United States. So we paired students, and we had a group of 3 students, but that was not a problem. We had these 6 groups, and we also made 3 synchronous online meetings that involved synchronous and asynchronous tasks. And we designed this virtual exchange in order that we had a main task for them to do, then also a pre-task and a post-task that I will present in the next slides. So in this slide, I wrote how to use Google Tools in this context and why. I'm going to start with the why. Google Tools, because Google provides us different tools for us to use our Google Docs, Google Forms, Google Drive, etc. And also because both universities, the university in Brazil and in the United States, use institutional emails that are based on a Google email. So in order to keep it institutional and not asking students to use their personal emails, we chose Google Tools to design the tasks in this virtual exchange. And then now answering how to use Google Tools in this context, this is an example of a pre-task that we asked students to do. I'm sorry, Laura, the previous slide. Yeah, so this is an example of a pre-task that we asked students to do. We asked them to watch a video about the author of the text that they had to read. So what we made an upload of this video on Google folders. So each group had their own folder, and they could watch this video. They could do this pre-task on Google Drive and then watch the video. And then we also had another pre-task that is in the next slide. They had to read the literary text and add comments on Google Docs. So this file was available on that Google Drive folder, and it's a Google Docs file. And students had to read the text before they met their partner, and they had to add these comments that you can see on the right side of the screen. And they didn't only read the text and add the comments. Some of them also decided to highlight some of the words that they had difficulty with. And that was interesting because when they met synchronous and on the synchronous meeting, they had these words highlighted so they could ask each other what that means. And then the next slide, Laura, please. Yes, thank you. Then this is our, okay, thank you. This is our main task. We ask students to answer questions that we put on a Google Docs file, and then they answer these questions collaboratively. As you can see, each of them wrote their own part of the answer. And then the next slide, Laura. Thank you. For a post task, they had to answer a small questionnaire about how the interaction was, what did they learn, and this questionnaire was available on a Google Forms file. And then to conclude, yes, thank you. To conclude, we presented you 2 projects that integrate tasks and technology with clear learning purposes. We had our own goals with each virtual exchange, and the online platforms that we used, Padlet and Google Tools, were chosen according to the learning goals and context of each partner higher education institution. So as you can see, we agree with Adele and Ware when they say that it is important for teachers to understand that within the various constellations of task design and sequencing, there are options that will better suit each certain institutional and learning context, which was our case. We are PhD students from the same higher education institution in Brazil, but we had different partner institutions, so it led us to create different goals with these institutions, which led us to design different projects and design different tasks using these different platforms, Padlet and Google Tools. And now our references, yes.
So thank you very much. So it's it's somehow that we also see it's very useful to use Palette as well as the Google tools in having the asynchronous exchange, especially because of the time differences. So they are very useful. Thank you. So thank you for your sharing. So we would love to learn more from other panel speakers as well. So may we now invite Dr. Gabriella Rodolico and also Dr. Casey Dinger to share us their presentation.
Thank you so much for this opportunity and for having us today. We are gonna talk about COIL. Obviously, the whole conference has been pretty much on COIL, so everybody will know how COIL works and what it is. But we are gonna look into that as a critical reflection on what it works and why it works, and also how technology can support that. The team with me today, I have Dr. Casey Dinger from the University of Denver, but the team is much bigger than just us two. I'll leave Casey to introduce the scenario, and then I'll take over.
Thanks, Gabriella. So in looking at the study rationale, and this is the case, I think, for a lot of people that are engaging in COILs, thinking about some issues of equity, particularly when it comes to mobility, which is often in many parts of thinking about internationalization, a prime modality for thinking about how we help students gauge and engage in intercultural development and agility. We know that there's limited resources, and such mobility often ends up being unevenly distributed. So we know that these kinds of programs for internationalization at home tend to be a more equitable, inclusive approach. I think we've already heard from some speakers that have mentioned access as being an issue. But there's also limited empirical research on COIL and thinking about its effectiveness in developing these intercultural skills. There are some. We know that when COIL is implemented intentionally and well, that there is some evidence showing that we are gaining in intercultural development. One thing that often doesn't get talked about with COIL, though, is we focus on the student development, but faculty and instructors themselves can actually engage in their own cross-cultural development and learning through these kinds of collaborations as well, which is something that needs to be further explored when it comes to these kinds of research that's conducted on COIL. But for this particular study, that's a little bit of the background. But to our knowledge, there isn't any other COIL studies that are examining how social media impacts the COIL experience and what the kinds of pedagogical approaches might help facilitate that particular process with the social media. So as that is the introduction, I'll hand it back to Gabriella.
Thank you so much, Casey. We approached our studies with, research rigor. So we had 2 research questions that we wanted to look at. So specifically, how might remote cooperative teaching based on mutual enrichment across international IT institutions support the active participation of students in international activities? And then we went more in details on how the social media and the other platforms that we used could really support the further development of our COIL activities. I'm going to quite go fast on this one. It's just to show you that we ran a 2 years project with 2 different institutions. One is the Nicola Cusano in Rome, and the other one is the Indian Institute of Science Education and Research in Pune. We used the SUNY COIL approach when it comes to the framework that tutors have to keep in consideration when they're planning for a COIL project. The SUNY COIL approach requires, as you already know, 2 institutions that come together because they might identify a topic of common interest where they can overlap within their courses, and they can, by keeping their own identity, so credits, fees, belonging of the students, they can still co-deliver part of their curriculum. What we did with our studies, first of all, we identified that there was quite vagueness when it comes to what does it mean, the professor's collaboration and the students' collaborations. So we received an ethical approval, which is a very strong requirement for our university. And we analyzed students' feedback, students' voice through a Padlet, and also we had the opportunity to invite students and the tutors for focus groups. And we identified that there are 4 key themes that the collaboration both between professors and students have to take in consideration. These are topic of common interest have to be fostered during the COIL sessions, because obviously we needed to make sure that not only one of the institutions has particular interest on the topic, but that has to be shared with the partner institution. That will lead towards the mutual enrichment. So there is really the need for the 2 institutions to develop that mindset of co-ownership of the courses when it comes to the COIL part. So when there is the COIL sessions, those sessions are co-delivered by the 2 tutors in the 2 institutions. That will foster that culture and that active mindset of mutual enrichment that the students will perceive. And so when they are asked to collaborate, they will feel it as almost a natural process. Obviously, there are some caveats to that. One of the things that we encountered in our studies, for example, is that cooperative teaching as a style of teaching in COIL, it really works well when tutors have to decide which sessions are co-delivered, which sessions are asynchronous, which are going to be synchronous. This will happen everything at the planning stage. So there is quite a bit of work to do before even delivering a COIL session. But also there is the need to make sure the students participate actively. How many times we have seen the students come to the Zoom sessions and they switch off the camera and we don't know if they're there or not. And how many times maybe happens that you are establishing a very useful COIL session, but your students struggle to collaborate. So the active participation, we found that could work really well to embed the COIL sessions and the COIL artifact and within a form of grading that COIL product. So whether it's a formative assessment, whether it's a summative assessment, that will pretty much depend on the institution. So as a first step from these particular studies that we did, we connected with SUNY COIL and we identified by following their recommendations that there are 4 key pillars when it comes to designing a COIL session. These 4 key pillars are based on ice breaking and team building, and I was at the keynote and I was pleased to see that those are pretty much the same as most of the presentations today. So there must be opportunities for comparative discussion. There must be then those build up, scaffolding the collaborative project. And finally, students have to be given the opportunity for presentation and reflections. We put this all into a curriculum mapping tool that I hope works, because I can give you an idea of how we initially used this technology tool, the Miro map, to be able to support the designing stage of our tutors. So when tutors come together to make sure that there is the mutual enrichment, they have to map their sessions and they have to be able to have that conversations in between institutions. So we developed this tool that's based on digital education theories, learning types, and we ask our tutors to look at their sessions. Let's say that session is long, for example, 2 hours, identify the different elements of the session, and then start to map it visually. For example, one of my COIL sessions started with a pre-reading in a flipped classroom style. So I had the opportunity here to map the 15 minutes of my students' pre-session time was spent in reading their, an article that I gave them. When they came in classroom, they were ready to start an initial collaboration into producing a video artifact by using the output, the learning output from the article that they received before. So in this way, I was able to look into the different components of my sessions, and then having the opportunity also to map the different elements of COIL that the SUNY COIL the SUNY COIL recommendations were providing. So for example, my video task was certainly going to contribute to the collaborative project work. So in this way, I had the opportunity to see visually what is my session looking like just now. What do I need to discuss with my partner? How can we integrate each other's interest, and how we can make sure that this is in line with the COIL structure? So I'm just going to go back to the presentation to be able to move forward from here. So this is one of the digital tools that we developed for these supporting tutors. We also looked then at another important aspect of COIL, which is, as I said, I already had this mentioned before, is to make sure that each country has, regulations are pretty much respected when we look into what digital tools are we going to use. This is a project we run with Serpione in India. We had implemented what is known as participatory pedagogy. So we really made the students participating into what they wanted to learn and how they wanted to learn. We co-developed the curriculum together to the tutors, and then we provided loads of opportunities for action research. So we really had that theory and practice together to be able to produce courses that are evidence-based led. But most of all, I want to say that the natural progression of the designing stage of a COIL, it goes quite easily towards talking even more about TNE, for example, or micro-credential. So quite often when you do a COIL with a partner, then the next step is quite naturally going towards bigger conversations for bigger outcomes. I'm just going to go quite quick on this one. And this particular project, we had different technology involved. We found that email and Zooms, they were the two technologies that we used to share the material. But in India, for example, Google Classroom was much more preferred than Teams. We couldn't use Teams. But we also used, this project was done with newly qualified teachers. So we also had the opportunity to use WhatsApp. And for WhatsApp, I really would like to say that the technology allowed us to use the recordings. So there was the opportunity to hear the voice of our, in the recordings for both for tutors participation, but also tutors and students connection. Hearing the voice, so hearing actually the tones was really important to understand what people were talking about, not just reading a text. And that is something that worked really well. What didn't work that well was the time difference and how messages were coming in, maybe a time of the day that is not really suitable for working on a COIL session. So that was an expectation that we had to set up. We also made sure that students participated, and within the theory of participatory pedagogy, we made sure the students were our collaborators in the papers that we published. So students were invited as authors, and that worked really well for them, for their own professional development. They were able to mention this work in their CV, and in India, they received a promotion in Scotland. They had the opportunity to participate to specific awards due to this critical thinking development. We also looked into other two concepts, which I'll go very fast again on. We realized that as a natural occurring data, that when using social media or using any form of communication through the social media, we might encounter into the racial linguism otherness. I experienced it myself. One example of racial linguism otherness, which always comes from a good heart, always comes from a good place. But one example could be when maybe you're told, oh, don't worry, your English is better than my Italian. Obviously, I'm Italian, this is my native language. And I go like, thank you very much, because I know you want to say this make me feel better, but actually you're telling me that my English is not that good anyway. So there are some dynamics that tutors have to be very, very careful about, and they have to help the facilitation in communication. So racial linguism can be one of them. However, we also seen from the same data that there is really a very good hope, because the technology itself in COIL was developing several elements of connection. So we recognized in our thematic analysis that there were digital empathy, digital connectedness, and digital presence developed. So that is really fostering a human connection through social media and through platforms, digital platforms. So although racial linguism can be a factor, you also have to look at the bigger picture there. We're just going to go into our reflection. Some of the, I will lead these reflections by mentioning one of the feedback that I received from tutors in India. They said, we really felt the collaboration was starting when we had the opportunity to create context that was relevant for India. So that mutual enrichment aspect that wasn't not only based on the content that was relevant for us in the UK, but they had the opportunity to integrate the contents in the session, in the COIL sessions that were relevant for India. They felt that that was a very strong point. The social media themselves fostered a type of connection that is, as I said, human connection, which easily was then developed in friendship. I still have the WhatsApp chat with my Indian counterparts, and so with the students. So every so often we chat to each other and tell us how things are going. So that friendship was developed through that digital tool. We recognized that to make sure the COIL works in an effective manner, we are looking for cooperative teaching, careful choice of topic, and mutual enrichment in collaboration to build the empathy, as well as we wanted to foster the cross-cultural development for instructors, global knowledge, and having the time to actually develop those competencies, even through the different aspects that social media can support us to use. Thank you so much, and my apologies if I went over.
Thank you very, very much. So thank you so much for sharing us how to make a careful planning in terms of engaging different technologies, different social media platforms to ease the arrangement. So that's very inspiring and very useful. Thank you so much. So we will be coming to the third panelist today. So we have three presenters. So may we now invite Ms. Bruna, Ms. Katya, and also Dr. Luciana.
Hello, good morning. So Katya is going to share the screen, but I am going to start presenting. And then at the end, Professor Luciana and Katya, they will be here for the final discussion. So the title of our presentation is Establishing Sustainable Partnership through a VE Project in English Teacher Education between Brazil and Honduras. Yes, Katya. Okay. So it's important to mention our background and how we got to know each other, how we got to start collaborating. So in fact, Professor Luciana and Professor Jorge, they had already met. And then they introduced us to their group, to their COIL group. And this was the way we started developing this connection. So it was established via previous collaborations of Brazilian and Honduran professors, in this case, Luciana and Jorge. And it was really informal. And it was really nice the way we got to meet each other and talk about COIL. They gave us like an introduction, a presentation, talked about their previous work. And as you can see in the picture, it was really friendly. Then we also got to learn a little bit about the theoretical aspects involving COIL before we started developing our first project together in 2023. So this was the way we got to plan. We have like a group where we are always we keep in touch. And we talk about our ideas for our next projects and so on. Yes, Katya. Okay. So the goals of our presentation are, just a moment. So I cannot see the slides, just a moment. Are you sharing the screen, Katya?
Yes, I am.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll open the slides here. I think I touched
Is
some
it-
buttons then, but it's okay. So the aim of our presentation is to present the process in which we got to establish this partnership and maintain this partnership between professors and the students from Brazil and Honduras in virtual exchange projects, analyzing the activities and the digital platforms used and reflecting on the role of the in-teacher education curriculum. So our idea is more specifically to present 2 VE projects that we developed starting in 2023. Okay, you can go to the next slide. Okay, so one thing that is important to mention is that we have a common interest, like we have all of us, we want to develop this intercultural competence in our students, and we are aware of the importance of VE for developing this kind of competence. So we have the same goals, the same interests, and it provided us with opportunities to work together because of that. And we established bonds, as I mentioned before, beyond the professional field. So our relationship is not only professional, it's not really formal. So we have this bond, and then we can talk about things or talk about the aspects that we are working with our students and the topics that we are discussing the semester. So maybe we send a message to each other. Also, what are you thinking this semester? Are you going to develop a project? What are the topics that you are working with your students? And then it's really easy to communicate. We don't have like anything that stops us from just sending a message and talking to each other anytime we need. And then we use different ways of communication, and they continue after the VE. So we didn't establish just a relationship to do one project and then we never talk to each other again. So we are always like, if there is a paper that Luciana found, for example, about COIL or about topic that we know we are interested in, she shares with us in our group. So it is a way that we have to always maintain this bond and to keep in touch, talking about topics that are of our interest. And also it's important to mention that Katya, she has studied here in Brazil. She has lived here a few years ago. So she already has this interest, personal interest and educational experience here in our country. So now we're going to talk a little bit more specifically about the projects that we developed. And one of the tools that we used in the projects was the Padlet. So we had the opportunity to present ourselves before having a synchronous meeting. So we used this Padlet, Friendly Ties, English Teaching Contribution between Honduras and Brazil. And then we could include a picture, talk about ourselves in a very open way. And then we could share something personal, like a favorite series or favorite movie, song. So we could start creating this friendship between us and our students as well. Okay. So as I mentioned, we're going to talk about 2 projects. Yeah, so the VE is developed in the curriculum of English teacher education programs at UEM in Brazil and UPNFM in Honduras. So the projects, they were developed in undergraduate courses for students that are pre-service teachers. So it is part of their education to become English teachers. Yes, here in Brazil, we call the Letras course. And then in Honduras, if I'm not mistaken, they call it English career. Okay, you can go to the next one. Yeah, so in the first V, here I included a picture of our students, and we were in a room in which we have the possibility of connecting to people in Honduras through Google Meet. So one of the tools that we used was Google Meet. We had in this VE 2 synchronous meetings, and it started in November 2023, and it took about 4 weeks. So we had 2 synchronous meetings, but also various asynchronous activities. And then, as I mentioned, we used different tools like the Padlet, but we also used the Jamboard, Google Classroom, so we could share like everything that we needed, all the materials that we wanted to send the students, we shared via Google Classroom. And also we used Canva to create slides in a collaborative way, so everyone could work on the slides at the same time. And the subjects were, here in Brazil, it was a course called English for Academic and Teaching Performance. And then in Honduras, in the English career course, it was English 1. So the students, they were like beginner, intermediate in terms of English, but both groups, they are studying to become English teachers. So we talked a lot about the way that we study to have this career, like what we have in terms of similarities, the way that we prepare students here in Brazil for this career, and the way that they do it in Honduras. So it was really important that we could see what is similar, what is different, what do we have in common in terms of not only cultural elements, but also we could notice that even though Brazil is a lot bigger in terms of the size of the country, we have so many similarities when it comes to culture. Like we had in one of the synchronous meetings, we were able to ask open questions. So the students, they prepared some questions in advance, but they could also ask another thing if they wanted to. So they were really curious about the cuisine. They were really curious about sports and music. We could even watch like videos from Honduran singers and so on. So it was really a really good moment for us to share our experiences. And I could see that they were really excited because they had this possibility of talking, not really face to face, but synchronously. So it's really nice. And they also prepared presentations. So my students prepared a presentation about Brazil and things that they wanted to include about the university, about their course, about the way that they get prepared here to be English teachers. So they included many pictures. They included things about the city, and they were really free to choose anything they wanted to mention. So it was really their view, they could use different tools like pictures, memes. They could use all of these things to express what they wanted to share about their context in terms of preparing for being teachers in Brazil and what it means to have this career here. And also the Honduran students, they did the same. So we watched their presentation as well. So yeah, we shared general cultural elements from Honduras and from Brazil, and also we discussed specific topics related to the educational background in Honduras and Brazil. So we discussed public education in Brazil, public education in Honduras, and the way that they are preparing to become teachers. Okay, now I think that Katya is going to talk a little bit more about the second V.
Hi, sorry, my microphone was off.
Okay.
Okay, hello, good morning. Here in Honduras it's like 4:30, but I was like very excited to participate. I'm going to continue with the presentation. Okay, we have the second V. And as Luciana was saying, the students were very excited, okay? I don't know if you were able to watch the picture where Honduras is located. It's like in the Central America, it's down Mexico. And I think on the first presentation, they talk about Mexico, so it's a little bit down there, but we'll speak Spanish too. So in the second one, VE, we only have like 2 asynchronous tasks, okay? And the first one, students were able to speak about their countries and some similarities that we have as Brazil and Honduras English teaching. Okay, we continue with the Padlet, okay? And in the second V, the tasks were completed by 2 different groups, okay? We changed, okay, the period, but we continue with the same topics, okay? But in this specific occasion, we talk about what type of methodology, okay, and techniques students from Brazil and students, they use in order to teach English and to learn English, okay? And I'm going to show you one of the students, okay? Here, I have a video, short video, okay, that I will play it. Tell me if you can listen. I think, yes.
Welcome to the UPNFM, the Pedagogical University of Francisco Morazan, Honduras. Hi, my name is Gwendolyn Garcia. I am an English student to become an English teacher. This is the English department building. And I am here to ask you questions. The first one would be, why did you decide to dedicate to be an English teacher? And the second question would be, how would you motivate your students to learn English? I have been a bilingual person since I remember, and I have a degree in communication and Spanish, but speaking other languages like English is a new experience where I can learn more.
Okay, we can see a student from Honduras, and you also saw like a little bit of my university here in Honduras. So,
Welcome.
Okay. So we have some considerations to talk about the initiatives that we have in our project with Luciana and with Bruna. And some of them, they were the enriching experience for all the participants. As Bruna was mentioned, the students were very excited, okay, to participate, even though that there were 2 different groups, okay, we continue with the same topic related to English teaching in 2 different countries. And our way to communicate besides using technology was English, okay? So they were like very focusing in the way that the other students, my students, and the way the other students were communicating. Okay, the synchronized meeting seems to be more motivated, okay? When we have this type of synchronized meeting, at the beginning, they were kind of nervous, the students, but at the same time, excited because they were knowing a different country, a small country, okay, in America. But they were like very happy to know about it. Use in English as a lingua franca for communication and different semiotic and multimodal ways of presenting themselves and their cultures. Time some, as you can see, it is a little bit challenging, okay? But since I am able to learn a little bit more, I wake up like very early in this case in order to present. So my students also were like excited to present at 7 a.m. because it was the time that we start classes here in Honduras, and Brazilian time, I think it was like just only 2 or 3 hours of difference. But still, we were able to handle that type of challenge. Okay, some consideration, we have the development of previous VE by other professors. Okay, so we have some references over here. And Honduras was an inspiration for other VEs. In this context, the perceived teacher can also feel motivated to integrate opportunities in the future classes. As Bruna was saying, it was more like a close bond we did, okay, it was in 2023 and it's still almost finished in 2024 and it still continue working and in different projects, and she's going to work with me also in different groups, but we continue with the same line of teaching English. And the importance of supports in planning the development of students' intercultural competences. As Luciana was saying, even though that we are two different countries, but we are located in Latin America, and we speak different languages, English is one of the way that we can know about our countries. And the conclusion, we have the VE is a pedagogical activity detailed and carefully planned by the professors to integrate an international competence in the English teacher education curriculum, and an engagement of the VE as a pedagogical practice and in a way also to practice English as a lingua franca. And the projects that we provide to connect the students and professors from different cultural backgrounds and meaningful way to the personal and professional development. As Bruna was saying also at the beginning, I live in Brazil. I took my master over there. So it was like a more personal interest and that personal interest that I have, I made my students to know about Brazil and the way that they can learn and that they way can teach English, okay? Not just in United States, which is the country that we have more class related to English speaking, right? And VE are also important ways to develop and continuous and sustainable partnership and joint activities for the professor involved. And we have some references over here. And thank you so much. These are our emails, okay, if you want to know about our countries too. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for Miss Katya. Katya, right? So,
Yes.
thank you so
It's
much for your
great.
presentation. So thank you for the exciting highlights from, your experiences. So we now come to the last presentation of the panel. So thank you so much. So we will now exciting welcome our last presenter today. So may we now invite Mr. Vanessa, Karl, Otic, so to share your presentation. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. All right, is my screen visible right now?
Yeah, very clear. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so let me start. Of course, by greeting all of you. Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon to everyone across the globe. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, also to share our COIL initiatives here in the Philippines. And of course, with my presentation, I'll be focusing more on the language acquisition. So therefore, we have enhancing language acquisition and global competence through collaborative online international learning, a phenomenological study of HCCCI first-year college students' experiences. And of course, with this initiative, we are more focused on the SDG number 4, 9, and 17. And of course, our future plans for our internalization office is will be more covering more SDGs in the future, right? And now, let us now first identify what are the problems that we have encountered, especially conducting the COIL initiatives here in our school. Now, in the 21st century, education has transitioned from traditional teacher-centered classrooms to more student-centered and interactive learning environments. This shift is especially evident in the English language instructions, where teachers now strive to engage and empower students through alternative teaching techniques. That's according to Cervantes in 2011. Now, capturing students' interest and imagination is a significant challenge, as conventional lecture methods often result in passive participation early on and reliance on rote memorization. To address this limitation, active learning has emerged as a powerful instructional approach. And we considered COIL as one of the techniques or tools that we can use for us to be able to activate the active learning of our students. And since we are now living in the 21st century, we are more expected that we'll be more having our advanced way of teaching, and COIL is one of the tools that can help us. Now, when we say active learning, it encourages students to actively participate in their learning process, fostering higher order thinking skills, enhancing engagement, and improving motivation. Speaking skills are crucial for success in daily life, and knowledge in one's first language serve as a foundation for verbalizing thoughts in second language. However, creating ideal communication situations for second language learners remains challenging. And we all know that when we learn English, or when we learn every languages that we have right now in the world, we are required with the different macro skills. We have the writing, speaking, listening, and of course, all those things, you know. And of course, with this COIL, we are encouraging our students to focus on speaking and writing, because as you all know that our country, or the Philippines, is actually very immersed when it comes to speaking the English language. So we considered English as our second language. And of course, the way we do communicate here, just like, for example, doing our business, doing our meetings, we use the English language. And our students are actually mostly from the indigenous group here in our province. And that was actually the one thing that they are actually hesitant to join our COIL initiative project here, because they were saying that they are afraid to speak straight English, or they're afraid to communicate in English. But we do encourage them that is it okay? It's okay to really learn English if it's not a good English, as long as that you have able to communicate your thoughts and everything, then that's okay. And we thought that COIL is a solution to this problem. So collaborative online international learning has gained attention as an innovative and inclusive internalization strategy in higher education. COIL facilitates online cross-cultural interaction and collaborative projects between learners from different backgrounds. This model allows for expanded international partnerships at reduced costs, helping students develop collaborative skills and international mindset and digital literacy. Now, we are just focusing on the communication part. That was the main problem of our students. But doing the COIL, we're actually hitting more stones, no? For example. And with that, we're not able just to focus on the communicative problem of our students, but also we have able to develop the collaborative skills with, of course, with international mindset, and also the literacy when it comes to using the digital tools that we have right now. Now, the impact of COIL initiatives on students' language skills, non-language skills affect and influencing factors. Existing research suggests that COIL provides opportunities for second language learners to interact with native speakers in real-life situations, increasing vocabulary knowledge, avoiding fossilization, and improving speaking skills. Using a phenomenological approach, this study investigates the potential impact of COIL programs on first-year college students at Holy Center Colleges Incorporated here in South Cotabato. And we see that this COIL as a solution for us to be able to also to develop the initiatives of our students when it comes to their language skills, the non-language, the effective part of their human being, and also the influence factors of how they can able to communicate actively when it comes to the language. The internalization of higher education and human resource development makes students better suited for future work and research. The COVID-19 pandemic has reduced opportunities for study abroad, making COIL a valuable alternative. As a diverse, inclusive, and equitable teaching model, COIL compensates for the lack of international education opportunities and warrants increased scholarly attention in the future. And we are aware that way back in 2020, we are in lockdown. So some of our students have missed opportunity to, to explore the world and to learn from different cultures. And COIL as a valuable alternative for them to discover and also to connect to them, especially when it comes to knowing their culture and their background, for example. Now, also, we have touched this kind of subject, for example, that the world Englishes. Now, this is what I told to my students or to our students that it doesn't matter how you speak the language well. It's about how you communicate as well in your own, for example, in your own context, for example. And we are here, the world Englishes is a term referring to localized or indigenous varieties of English spoken throughout the world by people of diverse cultural backgrounds in a wide range of social linguistic contexts. And that definition is according to Oxford English Dictionary. And as you can see, these are the list of the world Englishes that we have right now. And as you can see, Philippine English is one of them. And the other countries are also considering their own English. And with that, the world English is actually breaking the barrier to every culture and every world right now, because at the first place, our students, that was the main of the problem, that they were not able to communicate the English language well. They're actually afraid that they will be mocked by speaking the language, for example. But as I've said, we are now living in the 21st century and we are welcoming the different Englishes of the world. And it's okay. And our objectives, first, to evaluate the impact of collaborative online international learning programs on development of language skills, including vocabulary acquisition and speaking proficiency among the first-year college students at Holy Center Colleges Incorporated. To investigate the influence of COIL programs and enhancement of non-language skills such as cross-cultural communication, collaborative problem solving, and digital literacy in participating students, and to analyze the effective outcomes and influencing factors of students' experiences in COIL programs, focusing on their motivation, engagement, over perception of international collaboration. Now, these are the objectives that we have for our students. And here it is. This is our first COIL project, or the COIL program that we have. This is the EdTech Fusion. This is a collaboration between the Philippines and Venezuela. So for the representative of the Philippines, we have here our school, Holy Center Colleges Incorporated. And for the Venezuela, we have also the UCAM, right? And these are our few sessions. So we have here, we're just not incorporating the academic side of the learning. For example, since we're talking about the EdTech Fusion, it's about presenting the technology that they are using, especially when it comes to education in their country, in the Venezuela, and also here in the Philippines. And at the same time, aside from that, we're able to touch the topics of the culture, especially the history, for example, or the myths that they have in the country. So they are able to share that one also, and also their culture when it comes to music. So each of the side of the world, the Philippines and Venezuela, were able to show what are the folk songs of each of the country. Yeah. And in this session, they were actually waiting to start the program. So they were actually playing this music and they're just having joy. Yeah. And of course, we are the outputs of our students with their COIL initiatives. So we're the Fusion number 1. So this is the output of the group. So they have able to make a website out of it. They're actually encouraged to use the different digital tools that we have right now in the 21st century, for example. So they have the Google Sites, they're able to do that. The Canva, they also use the Grammarly. And also the way of communication is they are communicated using the WeChat. And their chat is actually in English, so that they can able to understand well. Yeah, so this is the output of the group. So these are the first group, and this is the Venezuelan group, right? So they're able to use the logo, and their content is all about the AI in the Philippines, in the perspective of the Philippines. What is AI in them, and what is AI in Venezuela also as well. And with that, they have the comparative analysis at the end of their presentation. And also, Also another output we have here, the SDG number for quality education, this one. So they have able to touch the technology for teaching and learning, ecology, environmental sustainability, photography, and living in IT era. So this is their output. Again, so they have here the content. So with this one, they have able to share what is their campus life is like in the different parts of the world, for example, this one. And also the vision number 3, partnership goals. They've also to share their experiences, for example. This one. So if it is solar panels, generators, solar panel. So they're able to compare and contrast what it's like in Venezuela compared here in the Philippines. And this is our promotional video after the COIL initiatives that we have between Philippines and Venezuela. So this is just a sneak peek of our program.
Welcome to Holy Child Center Colleges Incorporated, where we are shaping the future of education through innovation, inclusivity, and global partnerships.
Through the collaborative online learning or COIL program, I have connected with peers around the world, including the Venezuela, to share our cultures and learn together.
COIL has opened my eyes to new perspective and enhanced my understanding of global issues. It's amazing to see how we can work together despite of being miles apart.
At Holy Child Center Colleges Incorporated, we are committed to inclusive education, ensuring that every student, regardless of background, has access to quality learning opportunities and extracurricular activities.
Primary Learning Hub International took up the leadership.
Yeah, so that is the peak of our initial video. So that was this one's taken at the culmination. That is the 4-week plan of the session of this between Philippines and Venezuela. And of course, our way of moving forward. So we have started with exposure with different culture and backgrounds. Then we have able to incorporate the innovation that is needed for the COIL initiatives. Then we have also collaborated with other schools only here in Philippines and also to the other side of the world, and also promotion. And as of right now, we are promoting the COIL initiatives here surrounding our school. And these are the impacts of COIL on language acquisition. So I'm just going to read. So first, it enhances language acquisition. Next, real-world interaction. They're able to interact with one another. For example, not only here in the Philippines but also to the other side of the world. Then they are able to improve their language skills, expanded their vocabulary, then also prevent fossilization and improve speech to resemble native speakers. Then global collaborations and effective learning environment. For non-language skills, they're able to adapt the cross-cultural communication. So they were able to know the different cultures of the Venezuela and also same time with the Philippines. And of course, global collaboration. Then we have digital literacy. So with this one, they're able to use the different digital tools. We have here the Zoom, for example. Then they're communicating using the WhatsApp, and also they use the Canva, the Blackboard, Moodle, so on and so forth. And then we're able to adapt the 21st century skills that is badly needed in the world right now. And also they have able to enhance their creativity and problem solving. It comes with their output, especially when they're making their online or the e-portfolio. On the effective outcomes, they're able to have the emotional engagement. So with that, they were able to make friends, create connection between one another. Then language anxiety and stress, During the session, at the first session, they're actually hesitant to recite, but during the other sessions, they're actually confident now. And confidence building, as I've said, then emotional gains versus skill gains, and importance of emotional development right after. And of course, they're able to build their interpersonal relationships. Of course, the modality of communication. So they are able to communicate using text, using the WeChat. They are chatting until right now, doing course queries, for example, then voice and video, of course. Then project duration and time lag, and of course, digital literacy and tool use. So that's it. So that's the end of my presentation. So I hope I have contributed something to you as well. And thank you so much for this opportunity.
So thank you very much for the sharings from Mr. Otic. And we very much appreciate that for all the presentations that we have heard from this panel. So now we will open the floor for questions. So please feel free to share your questions if you want to ask directly. So please feel free to share your questions directly. So if you want to also like type it in, then we will also bring your questions to the panelists. So maybe I ask the first question here to all the panelists. So actually, our panel talks about technologies for global connections, and we can see that there are different technologies and there are different designs to ease the COIL collaborations to be possible across different countries, across different like partnerships. Then, so I'm asking, how do you see like the technological difficulties somehow would be bringing like more bringing the collaborations between asynchronous exchange not that easy. So now I know that there are a lot of like examples as you have shared, like using, for example, WhatsApp, using different social media platforms, using Canva also. But then it's about the students will need to do it after school sometimes. So how do you motivate the students actually make use of those social media platforms or make use of those technologies to somehow to engage them and somehow interact with the students, because they're sometimes when they respond that will be after class time. So any tips, any ideas, any experiences sharing?
Well, here.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. I think my students were more motivated to know about other students because we live in a small country. So that's why they were like by themselves, okay? They were like motivated to know a little bit about them. And also extra points in classes. It works a lot. But basically it's because they wanted to know about other countries besides, because here in Latin America, as you know, okay, United States is like the developing country, and they're used to have like a lot of connections with United States, and they want to go to United States and everything. But once that you talk about other countries, okay, they are also interesting, because here in Honduras, we're like in the heart of Latin America, okay, it's just like a small country, and that makes them to motivate to know a little bit more. Okay, that is my experience here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Miss Katya. So we're so it's great to know, and also there's also another question I want to know. Is actually coming to more realistic these days is about the generative AI usages, because we're talking about technologies. So this is somehow that we also cannot, uh, cannot avoid that it is become more popular. So for example, for our university, actually, we allow our students to use it. So in terms of inviting the students to use it, and also as well as somehow that engage in different like collaborations with the partners. So somehow we for my courses, for example, for my COIL courses, then I would invite my students to and interact with the partner, the students from the partner institutions. Then they need to come up something that they discuss together, and then to come up as the data help them to prepare the assignments or maybe find a project. So this is how it goes. And how about now? So is it, how do we avoid that? They just directly generated it from the technology instead of something that really engage in a fruitful discussion. Because especially when we talk about using something that like WhatsApp, it's about the communication or video chat or Zoom communication then. So somehow, uh, although we ask them maybe do some recording, but honestly, we hardly have, much time to really check out one by one. So is there any ideas or any, suggestions you think that we could take note of that, take note of the using of generative AI tools like ChatGPT, and so it's somehow enriching their learning, enriching the collaborations instead of like somehow it's it's somehow that not getting the outcome we want them to do then. So is that just like ChatGPT, like generative AI is welcomed by your institutions?
Can I just
Yeah.
give a thought about it?
Yeah, thank you.
So in my institution, we have integrated COIL as part of our guidelines and policies. So we do have institutional support for COIL, and equally, we do have institutional support for generative AI. So we do have recommendations and guidelines on how to use it, because obviously we don't take the approach of don't use end of. We take the approach of whatever tool you use, you have to do it with a critical approach. So why do you need it? How do you need it? Is it really gonna give you the outcome you want? How do you know? So one thing I would say is as long as there is a clear understanding of what it means ethical use of a tool like generative AI, or integrity when you use a tool like generative AI, I don't think it is a matter of, taking the attention away from it. But I think it's also a matter to see how that could be supporting maybe the confidence of speaking another language, or maybe even some of the outputs. I personally don't focus on the output of generative AI, but I'm quite interested in the input. So I kind of ask my students, what question did you ask generative AI to produce an output, and why did you ask the question in what way? How do you know it's a good question? How much do you know about the topic to be able to ask a question? So it's more about, I don't go on the output itself, because that might be generated simply by the machine, but I do go into the human-machine feedback aspects of this tool, and how much the human background, previous knowledge, experiences in life, and so on, could impact the good input. And how do you know that is a good input? So what critical evaluation can you make? And that can go on and on and on, and will develop some, of these critical thinking skills.
Yeah, right. Agree with that. Thank you. Dr. Casey?
Yeah, I'd also say that when we're thinking about generative AI and COIL, there's all sorts of tasks and activities that could be used using generative AI platforms in order for the students that are collaborating to think and reflect on their own culture and how that appears in generative AI output. And then figuring out tasks, how students connect and say, well, this is what I learned about where you're from. Does that match your own experience or who you are? And it's a great opening for the conversation for the pairs of students or the groups of students to talk about where there's potentially bias or prejudice in these large language models that may not actually represent the students that are in that collaboration, the conversation. And of course, the students could work together on developing prompts that might actually give the output they want, but the conversation and developing the prompts together, I think, is a great COIL activity as well. So there's all sorts of ways that I think it can be incorporated. But one of the dangers, I think, is that there's different institutions that have very different policies on how you use such technologies. And so it's important that people understand what the position, if there's a position at all of their institution, on how to use these particular platforms. I don't think anybody thinks that they're going away, right? I mean, they're all going to be here, but there are some institutions that have banned them completely. There's some institutions that are leveraging them and incorporating them freely. And so I think having a policy for the particular COIL class, if both institutions are allowed or willing to use them, and having guidelines set up that are clear for the students in advance, I think it could be leveraged in some pretty interesting ways.
Yeah, thank you so very much. I do see that as you share about collaborative problems is something that, really coming to something maybe we fit to the latest technology development. That if the students really need to do it and use it, we need to like somehow encourage, but then somehow educate them, in using it in a way that benefit learning. So I do see it's also like the things that we need to think about maybe in the coming time. So it's like coming to more and more like, popular these days. So thank you so much. So we appreciate all your time. So it's actually we approaching the end of the section if we don't have any other questions. So thank you once again. So especially we want to thank our speakers from Brazil. It's still very early in your morning. So thank you so much and wish all you have a great day. We want to take a moment to thank each one of you for sharing your invaluable insights and experiences with us in this panel. So we appreciate actually everyone's participation. And we would like to say we will wish to invite you to join our summit next year in 2025. So we will be planning for another one in the coming year. So we will get you notified very soon. So if we have some more updates. So if any one of you are joining IVAC, so it's nice to see you as well because it's going to be held like October, right? It's like the time is running short. So great to see you all. And if you want to collaborate with us, our colleagues actually will be posting our link here. So please feel free to reach us. And lastly, we will have our audience wishing to have your reflections on the presentation in this panel. So we will also share the about the feedback form here, and as well as through the screen here now. So please feel free to scan the QR code and also maybe just directly like check in the question pro from the group chat link. So here. So thank you, everyone. We do appreciate your feedbacks because it's getting us more ideas about how to do it better next time. So thank you very much. And we wish to see you, or maybe we can seek you to be our collaboration partner in next year's summit. So thank you so much. So have a great day for most of you and have a great afternoon then. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.